I was one of the original founders of this organization, and so I ran my first program with Owen January 3rd, 2003. Is there anyone here who's under 20? Yeah, so again, I was doing this when you were born, right? And I've been running programs pretty much every other weekend, nonstop for those entire 2 decades. I've continued to do these for a number of reasons because, first of all, I find it very personally gratifying, fulfilling to see the change happen before my eyes. And I get to kind of experience by proxy what I felt when I first came to these understandings and saw the results in my own personal life. I'm more curious what brings other people to these events. So I want to ask you, why are you here? Let me come on down into the crowd here. Why are you here? Who said that?
Right here.
All right, so why are you here?
I'm here to meet some cool people to go out with and improve my social skills.
Okay, but that's not what I really mean. I mean, why do you want to improve your social skills?
It's fun. It's gets me a lot of fun success.
Yeah.
And it also helps me in my professional life and helps me get whatever I want in my dreams.
Whatever you want. Okay, that's good. Anyone else want to share? Why are you here? Why the are you here? This guy.
So I've already taken a bunch of programs with these guys. I've taken a bootcamp with Jeff. I've done his mentoring. I've done Julian's mentoring, but I've never been in one of these summits. Why am I here? Why do I want to improve this or that aspect of my life? Because if there is one thing I learned from Jeff and Owen and Julian is that life kind of has no meaning, so we get to give it the meaning we want.
Yeah. And
you know what? I'm inspired to improve in all aspects and see how far I can get this, this game.
I think it's really important to ask yourself, why the hell are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Because and the reason I ask that, almost every single weekend, I have students on my live in-field programs, on the boot camp, who seem to be, they don't even know what the fuck they're there for. They don't even know why they're there. Now, ostensibly, in this boot camp program, they're out there to get intimate with someone they just met in a nightlife environment. But I often think these guys, number one, they don't believe that could happen to them. And number two, they don't want to. It can be placed right in their face. It can be like, come and get it, boy. And they'll just be like, I want to do more approach. Like they'll literally say that. I wanted to do more approach. Oh, you wanted to go say hello to 15 more people and have them say nice to meet you. Why does this happen? There's a lot of pressure on young men to be perceived as good with the ladies. These guys don't even want it. They're like, well, I think my friends would think I was cool if I knew how to do it, or it's something I think I should do. But on a deep intrinsic level, do they even want that for themselves? So the reason I want you to dig into this stuff, why are you here to meet people? Well, why do you want to meet people? I believe that the essential component of being able to be successful in anything is emotional leverage. This is an old concept. Anthony Robbins talked about this decades ago. With a big enough why, you can accomplish any how. It's not complicated, but it's very difficult in many ways for people to overcome the conditionings that prevent them from taking the actions that are going to result in success. Now, in particular, let's talk about a boot camp. You'll get some guys, they come in at all levels of experience. You'll get people who are white belts. You get people who are not a white belt. They've literally never approached a stranger and introduced themselves to anyone in their life. You get some people who are very advanced. Typically, I find that the advanced people get the most out of the program. Why do you think that is?
Conscious of what they want.
Well, you kind of don't have to go over the wax on, wax off stuff. You can just kind of really dive in and sharpen the edges that need sharpening and smooth off the edges that need smoothing. And it's a lot harder to get a guy from a 9 to a 9.1 than it is to get a guy from a 1 to a 4, because they have those kind of newbie gains. Oh, lo and behold, I did this thing that he instructed me to do, and now, mind blown, right? I discovered dynamite, whereas these guys, they're trying to make tiny, tiny, tiny incremental improvements. So, but you'll get these people, they come in, and, well, first of all, I'll very often, at the beginning of the program, I'll always ask, okay, so Tell me a little bit about yourself. Name, age, occupation, where do you live, and what's your background in this? Now, some people will tell me, well, you know, I've been watching y'all for years. I can tell you what you had for lunch in 2014 on Wednesday, September 17th. Remember that video that you, actually, no, not really, but I'm glad you do. It means I'm still relevant in some way. But I've been watching it for years. Okay, cool. So how much actual experience do you have going up and speaking to people? Oh, I've never done that before. This is gonna be my first time. Oh, okay. On the other end of the spectrum, you'll get people who and both of these happened the very last weekend. I was in New Orleans for Mardi Gras last weekend. We did a 5-day program out there, which is completely insane. Redneck Vegas, where the coolest guy from every trailer park goes to party. Anyone ever been to Mardi Gras? Yeah, it's quite interesting. I remember I was there with my son, and we walked out onto the street. And he had never been either. He's from like a rural place in Oregon, and so we walked out on the street. And one of the first things we see is up on some balcony, these dudes holding the sign that says, "Show us your butthole," and then young women are doing it. They're doing it in exchange to be thrown beads, plastic beads, because that's what happens in New Orleans on Mardi Gras. You show them your fucking butthole, and you, in return, receive plastic trinkets. So he's like, what's going on? But the reason that place is so good for learning social interaction is because it's a street filled with hundreds of thousands of people that is just churning and ebbing and flowing with brand new people swarming through there the entire time. So you can do massive repetitions of social interaction in a relatively anonymous environment, right? It's not reality. It's like a dream. It's like the holodeck from Star Trek. It's not real. I was in New Orleans, and I had, I believe, 10 guys on boot camp, and one of them said, I've been watching it for 10 years, and this is gonna be my first time going out. Another guy said, I was in a 10-year relationship, high school sweetheart type thing. We broke up recently, and I know nothing about any of this. I stumbled across this on your YouTube channel, and I thought it was cool, and I just signed up, like last month. Which guy do you think did better? The latter. Now, why do you think that is?
Nothing to lose.
Not a question of nothing. Yes.
He didn't have anything to unlearn before he can actually pick up the new stuff.
Yes. So, I believe that if you are the type of person that's engaging with videos excessively and reading a lot of theory about this stuff, you're actually doing yourself a grave disservice. Why is that? Because you're loading up on, you're loading up on theory, and then you're going to go out with the intention to shoehorn theory onto reality. I'm going to take these arcane, Byzantine, fucking elaborate theories I've read, going down a rabbit hole in like a fractal way, talking about the intricacies of value and this and that and the net qualification. And now I'm going to go out and I'm going to try to shoehorn that onto reality. That kid last weekend, I'm like, did you see that? Did you see the demonstration? How our demeanor, how we went up, and it was fun, and that made it compelling, and that made her pay attention. She's like, he goes, yes, but doesn't the theory say that I'm like, dude, what the fuck? And every time you'd perform, he'd be like, but doesn't the theory, conversely, you get this other gentleman who had just got on the program and who just signed up kind of sight unseen. He's like, what do I do? I'm like, do this. He does it, boom, done. He comes back the next day, he earned his cape. Well, on this New Orleans program, you would earn a cape if you had a success in the night, and you had then become a wizard. And so he became a wizard on the first night, and then you were also issued at the very beginning, everyone was issued these little, like, what looked like kind of air traffic controller sticks that lit up for the purpose of like finding each other in the crowd. And then, however, if you did something gangster, and the criteria for gangster was like, if my son and I, we look at each other, we saw you do something, we're like, damn, did you see that? Right? Then you were issued a proper Jedi lightsaber, and you become a Jedi. You're no longer an air traffic controller, you're now a Jedi. So this guy, he became a Jedi gangster, wizard, within a day. Why? Because again, he's not over concerned with the theory. So what is this getting down to? We all know in our heart what is required to improve your social skills. We all know what is required. Not theorizing. In fact, if you're watching videos, those videos that we do, those are designed to elaborate and explain things that you see in the field, that you see in reality. It's not designed to prepare you for reality. So, again, if you're one of those people watching the videos, stop now. Just go out. Just go out. And don't go out a little. And I get angry about this. And the reason I'm saying this now is because, you know, I run a mentoring. Spiros has been on the mentoring, you know, and Spiros, he had taken a boot camp, and then he came on the mentoring. So for 8 weeks, he's reporting in, he's going out, he's getting feedback, this and that. Some of those guys in the mentoring, they're like, it's just so hard. Like, okay, you want to be held accountable to the next for the next call. What do you want to be held accountable for on the next call? I want to talk to 5 people. Oh, 5 people. Oh, okay. That's like saying I'm on a diet and so what are you gonna do? I'm gonna eat a salad this week. 1 salad. The rest I'm gonna eat the normal bullshit, but I'm gonna have 1 fucking salad. That is insufficient. That is not sufficient. In order to garner a noticeably improved level of social intelligence, this requires massive repetition of social interaction. Massive repetition. It requires many other things. But in fact, what else does it require? If you want to improve your charisma, and again, for business applications, relationships, conflict communication, you know, dealing with an altercation with the neighbor, hell, even talking to the cashier at Walgreens. If you want to get a noticeably improved level of charisma, this requires that you to understand and act upon the following concepts. Number 1, what is the charismatic vision for your life that you want to create? This is why I asked why. What does it look like? What does it look like when you are out in a nightlife environment and you see somebody that you want to speak to? What does that look like? What does it feel like? What does it look like when you're trying to navigate some sort of office politics bullshit? What does it look like when you're having a tough conversation with a family member? What does it look like when you're at a party and your friend that you know there leaves and you have to mingle with strangers? What does that look like? What are the results that you want to get from that? Think about that for a couple seconds. I want you to really think about that, to quantify that. Secondly, and here's where, you know, we get into the weeds a bit, the sticky wicket, if you will. You need a clear-eyed understanding of the demands that are going to be put upon you by the types of results you want to have. What are the demands that are going to be put upon you? So again, from a practical standpoint, I get people who come on these boot camps and they're like, okay, yeah, ostensibly I want to have choice in my relationships. I want to feel like I have abundance. So I'm not settling for someone that I don't like. And I'm not stuck in this codependent trap of a relationship down the line because I don't feel that I would have the ability to find someone better if I were to break up with them. I was there. You know, that's why I got involved in this stuff in the first place. A series of bad relationships. You know, the same old sob story. We've all heard it. Many of you probably share the same story. So after that, I resolved. I will get abundance. I will get abundance. So again, that's what gave me the emotional leverage to do whatever was necessary to crack this code, to learn how to go out and express myself in a free way, an uninhibited way that kept people's attention for me long enough to execute the horizontal plot development to get from A to B. So here's the thing. I think a lot of people, they have an idea of what it's going to take. You know, I get these dudes on program, they come on and I'll be like, okay, so right before we go out, one of the very last things I say on the first day, so what do you typically introduce yourself with? And they'll be like, well, you know, I just kind of say whatever comes to mind. Oh yeah, what does that look like? I usually say, what's up? And does this work? Well, I don't know. I probably won't, but I say, what's up? How's your night? What's up? How's your night? Oh, okay. I hate it. It sucks, but okay, let's see. Let's just see what happens, okay? And then they go out and they say that, and what do you think happens? Nothing, absolutely nothing. They get ignored, or they get like, yeah, I like your dress. I like your dress. Oh, do you like it? Do you like it? You gonna ask for the designer? You like the dress? Oh, thank you. In a perfect world, in a perfect universe, how does someone react? This is what I'm saying this to the guy. How does someone react when you go up and say, hey, what's up? In a perfect universe, what do they do? Let's say what's up to me.
What's up?
Oh, they start filleting you, violently filleting you on the dance floor. I don't know what universe that works in, but it ain't this one. Okay, that does not work. Okay, now perhaps let's say that they are able to capture someone's attention briefly. Let's say that they go in there and they make some situational comment. Oh, look at that, that's crazy, and the person kind of chuckles and starts speaking to them. What do they then proceed to do? Typically they'll default to this series of kind of like interview style questions where they're asking all of this mundane, banal information about their life. So what do you do? Where do you live? Do you like it? The weather's certainly humid this afternoon, isn't it? Oh, what about local sports team? Certainly doing well in the standings, aren't they? I like your dress. Right? And so what happens with this? Well, again, like 5-10 minutes of polite conversation followed by some excuse to leave. I got to go find my friend. I got to go dance. I got to go get a drink. I got to go shoot myself in the fucking face. It was nice to meet you. It was nice to meet you. Right? And this will happen every time. Now, again, I'm preaching to the choir in here most likely. Everyone here is probably, yep, that's right. Correct. However, some of you are probably still doing it. So here's the thing. These guys, they know that will not work. They know it. Intellectually, they know it. Knowledge and knowing are two different things, right? It's one thing for them to think that probably won't work. It's quite another to go up and do it in like 4-dimensional meat space and see the look of disdain. Not even disinterest, pure disinterest. To feel the emotions flooding the chemicals flooding their body as they are ignored, and this feeling of like, I just want to, the palpable feeling of the person wanting to extricate themselves from the situation as politely and as quickly as possible. They fucking know. And they need to feel that. You need to feel that in order to say, you know what, it really doesn't work. And that's where, the second point comes in. You need to understand what are the results you want to have. And number two, you need to come to terms with the demands that are going to be put upon you by the results you want to have. If you want to get gangster results, you got to do gangster shit. If you want to get gangster results, you got to do gangster shit. Point blank, period. So I think that it's easy to think, especially when you hear like us tell some of these weird stories and stuff, that it's, either it's some fabrication or it's an exaggeration or it's stuff we used to do but I don't do anymore. And look, to be fair, I am 46 years old. I've had a lot of success. I kind of view it as sort of juvenile and amusing at this point. But again, I hang out with young people, particularly my newfound son that I didn't know existed. And he's very gung-ho about it being a 21-year-old, young, dumb, and full of various fluids. So he's really into it, and he kind of drags me back into it. But and again, we do this stuff on the regular. Now, why do I tell you this? Because one of my main goals or aims on our program is to inspire, is to tell people, you know what? No, this shit is real. This is not a fantasy. This is not some Hank Moody, Californication, like incel wish fulfillment writing fiction, right? This is real. Normal people, well, we're not normal, but relatively normal people can do this. People just like me. I'm not like particularly like handsome. I'm like 5'7.5". I do have a slightly above average dick, but aside from that, I'm just a regular dude in almost every way. Maybe bigger vocabulary than a lot of people, but you know, who gives a shit? Like, oh, they're not like hooking up because of my florid language and my bon mots. Like, oh, he's such, the witticisms, the turns of phrase. So I'm a sapiosexual. It's a very popular thing on Tinder profiles now. But is it causing a physiological reaction? I don't think so. Maybe, I don't know. But the point being, normal people can do this stuff, and they see it when they see us doing these things before them. They realize it's not really that complicated. Because again, here, we can make this stuff complicated. We can make it extremely complicated, or we can keep it relatively simple. And my aim has always been to distill things down to like the base components, the most impactful things. I mean, again, when you've been teaching a program for 20 fucking years, as I have, you have tried every single permutation of how to present the curriculum, how much curriculum. Do you make it like a 7-hour seminar? Do you make it a 2-hour seminar? Do you make it no seminar and it's all action? I've experimented with every single possible iteration of how to present this stuff. And I believe that I've distilled it down at this point to the stuff that's going to be digestible, right? Are they going to be able to digest this and apply it that weekend, right? Like, or is it just going to be this mishmash of information swirling about in their brain that just flies out of the window the second that they hit the field? You know, there's a saying, my buddy Mike Tyson. Anyone here read his book? That's a really fascinating book. If you want to see a story of like a really it's quite inspiring actually. I mean, this guy, he was robbing grown men at age like 9 because he's just like this weird genetic freak. He's like beating the shit out of grown men at age like 13 and like robbing them. And then he became, the heavyweight champion at 21. And so it's almost as though a street urchin from a Charles Dickens novel was given $250 million. And it's some pretty crazy stories in there. I mean, probably no one's had a life like that guy. But yeah, there's this one story where he's walking around the club and he's like, at the strip club, I had a special room built for me so I could do cocaine. And he would like walk around the club with this like big bag of cocaine hanging from his neck, with a straw coming out of it, quote, like a milkshake. And he would just like snort the cocaine. Yeah, it's pretty nuts. But I don't even know why I brought that up. What was that related to? Sorry, I lost my train of thought. What are the results you want to have? Number 2, what are the demands that are going to be put upon you by those results? Understand that and accept them. Accept that what you're doing right now ain't working. And again, I think that's one of the biggest benefits of coming on program, a visceral knowledge that the shit you're doing sucks. Not just an intellectual, yeah, it probably sucks. It's like, no, I suck. You need to bomb. I heard someone when I was up here earlier, the guy that got the wife and all that, is he still in here? Yeah, you. You're like, I learned it's okay to look stupid. It's okay to fail. I would take it even further. It's not just okay, it's required. It is required to look stupid. It is required to fail. Because I probably approached and introduced myself to, I'd say, 30,000 people over the years. I've been doing it a long time. I don't know the exact number, but it's got to be up there. The number I've actually had success with is minuscule in proportion to that. There's a lot of people that just weren't feeling it. So people ask me, how do you deal with the rejection, Jeff? How do you deal with the rejection? Do you just get to a point where you just don't care anymore? You're like numb to it? No. That's not the case at all. You don't get to a point where you don't care, but rather you arrive at an understanding and a realization that it does not matter. It doesn't matter. The net effect of somebody not enjoying your personality when you're laying it down to them on your day-to-day existence, the quantitative effect is negligible. It's zero. It may as well be zero. This person did not know you existed 2 minutes ago, and they will forget that you exist 2 minutes from now, if that. It means nothing. Nothing. Even if they say something to you, you're a fucking idiot. What is that? It's complicated airflow. It's just noise. There's noises in the air. Noises being propagated through the air. Oh no, the noises hurt me. The scary noises have affected my self-image. Shut the fuck up. Grow the fuck up. Like, it doesn't matter. It took me a long time to realize, first of all, a lot of this comes to believing that you're worthwhile. Believing that it would be a good idea for people to associate with you. Believing it will be beneficial to them in some way. So a lot of young people have difficulty with this because they kind of don't even know who the fuck they are yet, right? They're not really fully cognizant of that. They're finding themselves and this, that, and the next thing. And so, like, would it be a good idea? Would it be beneficial? Same thing with sales. If you're selling a product you don't believe in, you're going to have a hard time closing, aren't you? Because you think you're getting over on the client. And most people, unless you're a sociopath, are going to have difficulty with that. I'm 46 years old. It took me a while to come to the understanding, look, Jeff, some people are going to like you, some people aren't. Do I like me? For the most part. You know? I'm prone to, various personality flaws. But, I've worked on that. So I, in my estimation, on the whole, I think I'm a pretty good guy. Kind person, generous person, helpful, thoughtful, playful, creative, right? So again, if somebody doesn't like harmonize with my personality, that's fine. When I go out, I'm not trying to, and this is a big one, I'm not trying to find 10 people who think I'm this guy's okay. Yeah, he's fine, I suppose. Because that's what many of you are likely doing right now. You're like, I want everyone to think I'm okay. I'm not willing to have somebody think that I'm stupid or silly or pushy or aggressive or any other number of things. So this is where a lot of problems come into play, because you'll know precisely what needs to be done. And I can tell you what needs to be done. And you very often will not execute it. Why? Maybe you don't have the necessary emotional leverage. So for example, on program, these guys ostensibly, they want to have romance in the night. On the other hand, they want to avoid rejection. They want to avoid loss of validation. They want to avoid embarrassment. They want to avoid potential confrontation. In many cases, they just want to get it over with. They just want to bounce in, get a quick acknowledgement, bounce out. I did it. I did my approach. 5 more before I can go home and feel like I've accomplished something. So they want those things simultaneously. What is going to manifest is the one they want more. So whatever you want more is what's going to manifest. Now, unfortunately, this is why at the very beginning I said, why are you here? This, again, I keep saying ostensible reason, because you think you want it, but do you really want this? Do you really want them to stop and talk to you? That's when they stop. Otherwise, it's just going to be the incessant, oh, hey. You're just going to get that again and again and again and again and again and again and again. You will not be able to stop anyone. They'll like talk to you for a little, oh, thank you, like you're just, thank you. Because they don't want them to stop. Like one thing I saw, so in New Orleans, imagine this constant flow of people. Constant flow. And so they'd see, like I'm like, okay, go talk to them. I point with my elbow so it doesn't look weird. I'm not like, them! They're like, what the fuck, right? So I'm like, them. And so the guy's like, that person, hey! They like run up on him. And the person's like, what the fuck? Like startled, for one. And then secondly, like, no, thank you. No, thank you. I'm like, you don't need to run up on them. Like, they're already walking towards you. And don't like just leap into their field of vision and like, no. Like, let them see you coming or let them come to you. So like someone's coming, I'll literally just stand there. And then it's not going to work all the time, but if it works, they'll kind of go like this. They'll be like, and then at that point, it's just, who are you? You're amazing. I love you. And so it's like, boom, let them come to you. Put yourself in the middle space and let them come, give them space to meet you in the middle. But it's like, I want to talk to you. Not like, please talk to me. It's like this very sort of competitive vibe, right? Where if you don't stop and talk to me, I am diminished. I am lessened. I'm a fucking loser. I fucked it up, right? Whereas when we go out, it's more like, I'm clearly already comfortable right here. I'm enjoying myself no matter what happens. And I'm inviting you to share this with me. Oh no? Okay. And there's no fluctuation whatsoever. So I was walking to the club in Los Angeles a while back, and it was me and my son and a couple of students. And my son and I were just like cracking jokes. I'm like, you look like an idiot. Like, I'm like whipping him in the dick with this stupid headband I wear. Like, I'm like, like, yo, like we're just saying not gibberish, screaming gibberish and nonsense at each other. I'm like singing a song, like we're like, and then, but what are the students doing as we walk to the club? They're like this. Like they're walking to be shot, like walking to the firing squad. And I turn to these guys, I'm like, yo, do you see the distinction between what's happening here? Do you notice this? You guys are like silently walking, and we're like cracking jokes and having fun. Like, why are we doing this? Well, first of all, I don't want to silently walk. Second of all, I don't want to be in a position where I have to like turn it on. Like these guys, they stand in the club like these sort of like Gollum or something. They're like, yeah, like they're gonna leap out from behind a rock, and then like, okay, time to turn it on. Like they're standing there and they're like this. They're like, oh, there's someone I want to talk to. Hey, like, and then, oh, they didn't want to talk to him. The person leaves, then they're like. And you'll see these dudes, they're walking through the club. I call it the sauntering salmon, okay? They're like when I walk through the club, I'm moving with purpose, okay? Like I'm going there for this reason. Or I'm standing there and I'll be like, loose. I'm keeping loose. I'm moving to the beat of the music, ever so slightly, right? Why? I want to stay loose. Why? Because I know tension is the enemy. There's one overarching tenet to like a lot of the stuff I'm teaching these days. It's tension is the enemy. Physical tension, and physical tension is kind of the bodyguard of the intellect, the enforcer. Because the control pattern is as follows. You're like in this environment, you're like, why am I here? Well, I'm here to talk to people. Oh shit. Intellect goes, wow, that might not be good. That could cause problems. Well, first of all, the emotions. There's like fear, anxiety triggers surrounding social humiliation, right, in the amygdala. Once those triggers have been installed, they are indelible. They cannot be removed to the best of our knowledge. You're always going to have, the fear of approaching people is always going to be there. And we can argue whether that's an instinctual fear, you know, somehow evolved from the fact that we're like these hairless fucking lemurs that get killed by weather. Seems kind of lame. Weather makes me die. Oh, I need to be in a tribe. Protect me. So I don't get eaten by a creature. You know, so we kind of need that. So maybe it's instinctual, maybe it's learned. You know, Julian talks a lot about this with trauma, and trauma isn't necessarily like you were abused, but I lost mom in the grocery store or whatever. Like, or don't be loud in the fucking restaurant. Sit down, shut up, right? Oh, be careful around my uses of energy. Don't talk loud. Also, the system. The system. What is the system? Sounds very ominous. Is it a cabal of mustache-twirling villains conspiring to keep humanity subjugated? Or is it just sort of a consequence of technology and industrial society? I think it's more the latter. I don't think humans are in control of any of this at all, quite frankly. We lost that long ago, and we're hurtling towards our inevitable demise. Might take another, 20 to 60 years, but I think, put your head between your legs and kiss your ass goodbye. Enjoy it while you can. But the system, it does not matter what the emotion is. The quality is not at issue. It must be controlled. It's happiness, sadness, anger, fear. It just must be controlled. So so back to the story at hand. You're in the club. I'm here to talk to people. I'm here to introduce myself to people. Oh, there's someone I want to talk to. And then that's it, right? For many people, that's it. You've got that anxiety coming into play. So what do? They kind of shuffle around the club, sauntering salmon. It looks like they're going against the flow, like they're just like getting buffered around, like, or more likely they just kind of stand there. They just kind of stand there, rooted to the spot. So I used to go out. You want to go through 3 levels of awareness, right? So tension is the enemy. Because the thing is, this isn't this isn't like intellectually thought out when this happens. It's not like verbalized in your head. Oh, that's frightening. I had best not do that. You're in the situation. The anxiety trigger is triggered. Intellect basically thinks this is a situation where if there's about to be a change in the quality or quantity of energy expenditure through my face, voice, and body. Like I'm going to go up and be like, hey, good evening, or whatever. Potentially dangerous. Shut that down. How do we shut it down? Physical tension. So this is why I'm always like staying loose, because that onset of tension, it's very subtle. It can be almost subliminal. And once you're in it, you're in it. It still happens to me on occasion, after 20 years, if I'm not careful, but you have to go through stages of awareness. When I was younger, I'd go to the club. I'd go to like the dance club, and I would like just stand there. I'd be like, I'd be like, fun, having fun. Like I didn't even know what the fuck I was there for. I was like, this is what you do when you're having fun at the club. The music, the DJ, yeah, the music's so good. Oh, and then I'd see someone attractive walk by that I wanted to, ostensibly would want to hook up with, but I'm not thinking this. I'm just like, hot. Another girl walks by, hot. Oh, time's over. Go home. Fun night, guys. And like with this vague sense of like disquiet. Like I didn't even know why. Like there was something wrong. But again, it's not thought out. So then later I'd go out and be like, yeah, time to approach. But then I'd go out and I'd be like, time to approach. I'd see the person I wanted to approach and I'd be like, what do I say? What do I say? Right, rooted to the spot as well. But at least this time I'm aware of it. Awareness level 0 is where most of the general population is. Go to the club. Go home. Like they don't even know. They just know something. So they know something's wrong. That's why they ridicule this, by the way. Do you understand? Something they could never do. They don't have the mental fortitude to even try. What do they want to do? Sportermong, far from ho, like whatever the fuck. But anyway, so stage of awareness 1, you go out and you're in the frozen state and you can't take action. So stage of awareness 0, chodes. Stage of awareness 1, okay, I'm in it. Approach anxiety, I can't do it. Stage of awareness 2, I'm going into it. Right? You're out, you're like, oh shit, it's happening now. I'm going into that stage, or that state rather. I'm going into it. A little better, but still kind of not as good. Stage of awareness 3, this is where you want to be. I am about to go into it. The stimuli are present where I typically will go into an anxiety state if I do not train some kind of incompatible behavior. And that incompatible behavior is what? Take massive action before it can grab hold of you. That is the only solution. Again, everyone wants to hear the 4-minute abs solution here. What's the mental trick that I can use so I don't experience that anymore? The fear will always be there. And look, this results from fear of judgment, an addictive need we have to judge others and be judged ourselves, to be told what to do with ourselves by these external referents, whether it's someone you approached or a coach for that matter. Basically, once it takes hold, you're fucked. So this is why I say to students, I'm like, as soon as you go out, you must talk to someone. You must talk to someone, preferably a human, but like talk to someone. That's it. Talk about something banal. Be like, hey man, how's it going? Oh shit, wasn't vaporized. Again, Owen always likes to say your brain wants proof, not promises. Like you can, oh, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. No, it won't. No, it won't. And again, dating is particularly prone to judgment because it's so results oriented, isn't it? You know, you're very aware of being observed when you are approaching people. You're very, very aware of being observed. But again, I think one of the biggest things is, number one, you got to start taking massive action, however many it takes, massive amount of approach, get massive amounts of momentum, and then begin introducing your intentions to people. There's a difference between exercise and performance. In exercise, you want to practice what you can't do. In performance, you want to allow what you can do when necessary. So the reason I created that entire mentoring program, it was born in many ways out of necessity, because in the whole charisma mastery thing, because I would see students who were quite familiar with technique, but they had an inability to hold attention. Now, technique doesn't do you a lick of good unless the people will pay attention to you. So why aren't these guys, why aren't people paying attention to them? What is going on there? Do I need to give them a different line? I could even give them like some hilarious line. Hilarious line. That works great for me. People laugh. They say it and they're like, and because the delivery's off. So I would say to them things like, on the boot camp, I would say, oh, your energy, I want to see bigger emotional color. You seem kind of stifled, things like that. Now, is this helpful? No. Like, gee, golly, thanks, Jeff. Bigger emotional color, what the f does that mean? Bigger emotional color, right? So all that's doing is just making them feel more judged. It's subjective, it's vague. At the same time, it's not giving them any clear descriptive means of making the desired change. So I was like, okay, well, what goes into vibe? So that was sort of the impetus or the seed for me to investigate that. So like on that mentoring, we train people who have facial armoring, who are very inexpressive in the face. We train people who speak in monotonous cadencing, boring tonality, who are stiff and held in their posture, who have an inability to access imaginative impulses and intuitive impulses, so they run out of things to say. What do all those things contribute to? They contribute to the vibe. Long time ago I learned it's not the content that people are attracted to, it is the vibe. Most people, so for example, I had a lawyer on the program, and I also had this other kid from Bulgaria last weekend. And I've long ago stopped trying to be like, yo, this guy's gonna do well, this guy's gonna suck, because you never know. But if there was a guy that I thought this guy's gonna suck, it was the kid from Bulgaria. Because he's like, he just looked kind of weird, and he's kind of a weirdo. And he like talked in these weird clipped sentences. He's asking a lot of stupid questions about irrelevant minutia. A little on the spectrum. Neuroatypical. He seemed. Let's just say. I believe that's the appropriate nomenclature these days. And that first night, he said, like at the end, he's like, I felt like I was drowning. He's like, I feel like I'm drowning, because he just couldn't get into a groove. And so again, we worked on like, hey, look. Smile, first of all, smile more. You look like some sort of, it's like this, you're wearing someone else's face or something. He had this sort of like rictus grin of pain and shame or something. By the end of that program though, this guy, he looked like a totally different person. I hate to say that, like it's such a cliche, right? Like, but this guy, he did. Like before he was like, at the end of the program, he's like, hey, like I'm like, holy shit, because he just did what we told him to do. I'm like, yo, make more facial expressions, and we kind of worked with him. So his vibe changed a lot. So people would stop and talk to him. If it's again this robotic, hey, like low voice, monotonous voice, inexpressive face, hey, they're just gonna leave. Right? So the content could be great. And look, I got content. I can talk about anything. I can go off on any topic. Now, why is that useful? Because if you're talking to somebody in a conversation, whatever they bring up, you want to be able to free associate off that and talk to keep the vibe going. It is a vertical lyric expansion of a feeling. It does not move forward. Now, a lot of guys, they struggle with vibe because they're like, it seems like I'm in this weird narrative stasis and it's not going anywhere. This is why simultaneously, you have to have an understanding of that so-called horizontal plot development, aka the technique. Now, what does technique mean? Well, let's say that, if you want to go just talk to your neighbor about the street cleaning or something, hey, how was your daughter's, karate recital or whatever the fuck, like that does not require special skill. If you want to talk to a cashier, that does not require special skill. If you want to sell and close sales, if you want to get intimate with someone you just met, these are not things that normal people do on an everyday basis. These kind of things require skill, they require technique, they require practice, they require precision, they require control. You need to understand the waypoints and conventions of these types of interactions. What are the waypoints? How do I get from point to point? What do I do when this contingency pops up? What's a common thing that pops up? How do I deal with that? That's where the technique comes in. So you need both of those. Now, unfortunately, it seems that the vast majority of instruction with regard to this stuff has been focused on technique. Now, of course, in recent years, time flies, recently being maybe like the last 10, obviously, we and Owen and Julian and myself, we've been kind of like going off into those sort of more, I guess you might call it abstract areas. Personally, I was interested in investigating what goes into creating a vibe in terms of your communication system. How do you balance those two, though? Because there's a lot of opposites like that in this field, if you will, right? You've got, okay, do I go with more direct or do I go indirect? Do I go in very playful or do I go more serious? Do I go in with a more disciplined approach or a more spontaneous approach? Do I go, again, do I focus more on the vibe or do I focus more on moving it forward? Well, this is a great quote that I heard, and I live by this. It's like when you are faced with a situation where you have to try to rectify two seeming opposites, understand the greatest point of vitality along a spectrum of opposites is through the interaction of the poles. So in other words, you've got to try to find the progression inherent in the vibe and the vibe inherent in the progression, if that makes sense. Like duality is something that you want to get, like black and white thinking is something you want to get away from. Direct, indirect. Sometimes you're going to be very direct. Sometimes in the same sentence, you're going to look bored and turn away. It's a blend, but you need to be cognizant of both of those. So what goes into a vibe? Well, facial expression, vocal tonality. So the ability to access intuition. Now here's the thing about intuition. You cannot exercise intuition directly. The only way you can really improve intuition is by feeding it more soft data, right? So intuition is a subconscious process. The thing is, most of you, like I said, I had a lawyer on this program. This guy, he had a lot of problem. He'd run out of things to say. I run out of things to say. I run out of things to say. Because in his professional communication, most of the time, he needs to convey information in a concise fashion. That is the point of his communication. In fact, 90% of the communication that you do, even up here, I'm trying to communicate information. In social interaction, that is not the case. Logic will not serve you. In fact, it will actively harm the interaction. The more logical you are, generally, the less interesting it's going to be to somebody who is actually trying to unwind from their stressful work week. What do you do? Where do you live? Like, shut the fuck, get away. The fuck away from me. What do I do? Logic is the death of love. These guys, they default to logic because logic serves you very well in 90% of your life. Most people, they view their communication system as this gestalt, right? Like, I just go up and I talk. I go up and I talk. But in reality, there are several kind of competing subsystems that combine to make your communication. So from inner to outer, like the most nuanced and ephemeral weird energies here, you call this chi, life force, however you want to approach this, universal energy, vibrations, higher observer, intuition, the emotional process, and we're moving like outwards towards outer expression. Then you have the mind here, facial expressions and eye contact, which are always in play, whether these two are not. There's no such thing as a non-statement by the face because even if you're trying to be impassive, somebody's going to perceive something. And then you've got your voice and vocal tonality as distinct from verbal meaning. Okay, that's what we're talking about here. And then gesture, touch, proximity, movement through space, and body language. So, but interestingly enough, here in the middle, we've got the intellect, the mind. And the mind has elevated itself to a position of authority over the entire system because it believes it's all there is. Unfortunately, the mind, in a lot of cases, is not equipped to handle these energies that it's put itself in charge of. Mind can only work with information that's in your cognitive working space, that's consciously available to you. And it's not a very big space. What is it? You can hold 7 pieces of information simultaneously. That's not very much. And if you're trying to someone's talking to you and you're trying to think okay, well, what would be a good joke to say in response to that? Let's dredge something up and say, okay, that might be good. Say that. It takes too long. Now, the intuition can work with information that is not consciously available. It's not magic. Okay, it doesn't draw answers out of nothing. But again, it can work with information that's not consciously available to you. Ever hear of the theory of the holographic brain? There's a guy, Carl Pribram at Stanford, that hypothesized this years ago. You cannot find a localized cluster of brain cells that contain specific memories. You can't take these brain cells and be like, okay, that's my 6th birthday party right there. Right? It appears to be somehow distributed through the entire structure of the brain, much like a hologram where you can recreate the entire image from a smaller portion of the hologram. The information about the whole image is contained in a small portion. Now, of course, this is kind of an analogy, and we don't know exactly how it works, but it's interesting to think about. Because let's say that somebody gives you a prompt. They're like, I'm from South Africa. I'd be like, my brain would just churns out. South Africa, monkey gland sauce, bunny chow. Have you ever been to a place called Spur? It's like a weird ass restaurant with this kind of Native American motif for some weird reason. I said this to some woman who was from South Africa. There's Spur, Spur, and immediate connection. Right? Where did that come from? I went to South Africa 12 years ago. I went to some weird restaurant. And it just spat that out at me. I was talking to another woman from Chile. And Chile, she's like, oh, I'm Chilean. And the first thing that popped into my mind out of my intuition was Auguste Pinochet, the dictator who had death squads that disappeared thousands of citizens. I'm like, but now my mind stepped in and said, maybe don't talk about that. My grandfather was killed by okay, no talk about that. So I said, okay, what else? Pisco. Peru and Chile, they make pisco, which is a distilled spirit made from grapes. It's a brandy. I was on a pisco kick a couple of years ago. I was making pisco sours and da-da-da-da. So, do you like pisco? She didn't even like it. She's like, no. But it just kept the vibe going, and it allowed me to keep it going until I hooked. Right? So the thing is, the mind can be a bridge or a barrier between inner and outer. For most people, it's a barrier. For most people, it is a bouncer that stands at the door to the face, voice, and body. This cannot have access to these external resources, these external projectors, until the impulse has been analyzed for potential usefulness or potential harm. Will this make me look stupid? Will this make me look silly? Will this make me look pushy? Will this make me look whatever? Unfortunately, there's no timeout in an actual interaction for you to do that. And by the time that you've made that determination, the moment has passed, you say the thing, and there's this slight sense of you second-guessing yourself, which does what? Subcommunicates insecurity. Or, more likely, you say nothing, and now you have run out of things to say. So we want to, through exercise, increase the amount of time that your mind spends in useful and supportive activity as opposed to being this judgmental fucking hindrance. So you cannot exercise intuition itself, but what you can exercise is the allowing function. You can start to allow it more. Allow it more. And a lot of that comes from understanding that not everyone needs to like you. Not everyone needs to have your same sense of humor. And then just doing massive, 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 massive repetition of social interaction, seeing the patterns emerge, ingraining the technique. That's what's going to give you familiarity with the technique sufficient that it no longer requires much of the intellect's conscious attention. Intellect is good, okay? It's good. It's not a villain. It's got a lot of villainous characteristics. I mean, but what can it do? It can analyze. It can observe. It can make creative decisions in the moment. It can remember, learn from the past. It can imagine the future, hopefully, and plan for the future. It can also judge. Analysis in process is antithetical to best result. You've got to give up predictive control to gain in process control. That's a huge thing. Give up predictive control to gain in process control. But, it takes a lot to relinquish that. Also, you can feed the intuition more soft data by being intellectually curious, by having a lot of varied life experiences, by reading a lot. I'd say a good representation of intuition, the function of it, the vibe. The vibe does what? It captures their attention. That is very vital, especially if you're one of these sauntering salmon fucks, and you're just like derping around, like bobbing around the club, going against the grain. You're like, hello, I like your dress. How's your night? How's your night? How's your night? Good, I guess. What do you want? Thank you. Thank you. Why can't I hook? Why can't I hook? Why can't I hook attention? Well, look at the environment. Look what you're attempting to compete with. Lights, music, alcohol, dancing, friends. And you expect me to believe that this is the most important thing in the environment that I need to focus on? This is nothing. You are a non-entity. You are a chair. You are a fucking chair. You are a piece of furniture. You are a non-entity. You're a child. Why are they letting children in the bar? Go home. An NPC? Is that what you said? Yeah. That would probably be better if you went up and said like NPC shit. Like you sort of, I hear the sword of Tirith is found in these parts. That would probably be better. Legend has it that many goods can be sold at this spot, like something like that. If you just like said NPC shit. Our primary directive is what would be the funniest thing for us to do right now. Not like, oh, what's the good thing that's going to be interesting or impressive to other people? I mean, so that's a huge tenet. Ask yourself, am I looking at people who are having fun and attempting to weasel my way into their fun? Or am I B, already enjoying myself and I'm going up and offering to share that with them? Collaborate. It's a collaborative vibe. Ask yourself, can you do whatever you want with your face, your voice, and your body in any combination? Can you do that? If the answer is no, then the question becomes, well, why not? What's going on? Where are these inhibitions? How do I start releasing them? So awareness is the first step. At that point, you can begin, again, awareness without guilt or shame, because that's what caused the inhibition in the first place, right? The judgment or the fear of judgment. Start the process of release, and then you can start to make decisions of your own and choices of your own. And at that point, you could decide to go up deadpan and say, hey, what's up? And have it be somewhat effective, because they see it's a proactive decision you're making to be more chilled out, as opposed to, I have to act like this because I have no other choice, right? One thing I always say is individual choices gain power in direct proportion to the wider field of choice potential surrounding them. So if I'm sitting on stage here next to, Mikhail Baryshnikov, the greatest ballet dancer in history or whatever, and we're both sitting at rest, or like LeBron James, or we're both sitting at rest, LeBron is going to be emanating a greater sense of power from his state of rest because he has a much wider range of kinesthetic choice surrounding it, if that makes sense. So again, if I go up with my son, and go up and we're like, hey, good evening, how's it going? Just like that. They're gonna be like, okay, these guys are making what do you do? Where do you live? What's your address? When are you home alone? Do you have a gun or a a big dog or anything like that? Are there any bushes outside I could perhaps conceal myself in with a rubber chicken and a ski mask? The rubber chicken, that's for my personal comfort. It's kind of like an emotional support chicken. But yeah, they'll be like, okay, these guys are making a proactive decision to be more laid back. And at any moment, we could kind of bust out like, Shoryuken, some crazy shit. In order to get a noticeably improved level of charisma, you need, number one, to understand the results you want to get. What is the vision for your life that comes from that? Number two, what are the demands, realistically, what are the demands that are going to be put upon you by the results you want? The shit you're doing currently is not going to get you there. And you need to viscerally understand that, not just intellectually. And very often that comes from going out and trying the dumb shit you're doing currently and seeing it fail badly and feeling everything that comes with that. Number three, what are the social conditions in which you're trying to have these results? Number four, how is your negative social counter conditioning inhibiting you from behaving in the way that would get those results and taking the actions that would get those results? And last but not least, what can you do about this? You want to develop some sort of exercise process that's going to allow you to become aware of and release these things in a methodical way going forward. My intention is you will never be in an interaction where you're like, it's going good, what now? From that day forward, you will be in a similar situation. You'll be like, oh, okay, I'm on like stage 2. I need to go to stage 3. What are the actions I need to take? What are the behaviors I need to embody? Let's do that, right? So having that sense of control, like of what to do, that gives you confidence and you don't feel like you're flailing. And so the criteria for success becomes internal. It's no longer contingent upon the vicissitudes of the environment, so to speak, whether an individual vibes with your particular, meshes with your particular personality. That comes and goes. Like my buddy Derek said, I'm not trying to find 10 people who think I'm sort of cool. I'm trying to find the one person who thinks I'm awesome. The one person who thinks I'm awesome. And by the way, my buddy Derek, you guys know who Derek is? Show of hands. Yeah. That guy, he took 8 boot camps. He's really, really good. He took 8 boot camps. He took 2 with me, a couple with Owen, a couple with other instructors. Why would a guy like that take so many boot camps? Well, he values his time. He values his time. Like, yeah, could you learn this stuff by yourself? Absolutely. I'm living proof of that. We're all living proof of that. I mean, there was nothing like this back when we started in 2003. We hunted and pecked in the dark. We came up with theories. We went out. We tried it, this, that, the next thing. But that's why it took me like 8 years to achieve like a level of competence that I was really satisfied with. I'll give it to you on a platter. So again, I want to inspire. I want to give you clarity. Number 2, I want to push you beyond your conditioned boundaries. I only have 2 rules on program. Never be careful, go too far. Never be careful and go too far. Now note, this does not mean that you're doing intentional damage to yourself or other people, but it just means using your energies in a way that you never have before. Like, what if I did this? What if I did this? I can do that in a non-judgmental space. You are responsible for creating that judgmental exercise space. Once you realize this, you can let that go. I want the program to be kind of suffused with this air of, again, creativity, thoughtfulness, exploration, fun, play. You can put that judgmental hat off, leave it at the door, come in and play around. Because that's what's needed to be successful. A sense of fun. Not this chore where I'm putting my elbows through the mud, the war, through the fire and the flames. Right, like, well, by the way, I mean, some people respond well to that. Some people, they like that. Like, enough of the old way of living. Like, and I think that's good for emotional leverage. But once we get in there, I'm going to push you. I'm going to encourage you. I'm going to be up your ass, figuratively. Literally, like those guys that we yell oi, oi, oi at, if they don't hear us, we'll literally just go physically move them. No one notices. Like, we'll call up the guy, like literally my son and I will like literally be behind, like literally saying things directly into your ear. And people just don't care. You know why I think they don't care? Here's my theory on that, because like that kind of boggled my mind. Like, how come they don't care when we're doing this? Like they just kind of ignore it. So I kind of think they're like, well, so why is this guy coming up and what's he saying? Well, whatever he said, it made him stop being weird. So, okay, I'll allow it. Because maybe they liked the guy and then he started saying weird shit. Or like, it makes him cooler when the guy stands behind and says the things and do his, okay, fine, whatever, it's fine. So, we'll push. So again, we're providing inspiration, we're providing that push. And then perhaps most importantly, we're giving you very detailed and actionable feedback on what to change, okay? Because I think that this is vital because you don't know what your blind spots are. You don't know. And I think a huge part of all charismatic training in general is, and this is big, becoming experientially aware of the gap between what you think you're projecting and what other people are perceiving. For most people, there is a gap. When I send these fellows up and I see them speaking, introducing themselves and they're talking, a lot of times they think that they're like being super charming. They think that they're like, hi, good evening. I couldn't help but notice you from over there and I just wanted to introduce myself. My name's Bill. I'm from D and yes. So, droll jest, my friend. Did it like they think that's what they think that they're like. Like that they're super charming, like Don Draper or something. But in reality, it looks more like this. Hey, what's up? Like there's a huge difference. They don't even know they're doing it. So I'm like, yo, you need to smile more. Right now, you're just going up. You have this sort of deadpan expression. We call it sad face, right? Serious, anxious, deadpan. Like think about this. Serious, anxious, deadpan. Serious. This shit is serious business. Oh man, this interaction is very serious. Anxious. I hope it works. Because if it doesn't work, it means a lot of bad things for me. And then last but not least, deadpan. What I don't show can't hurt me. So again, but they're not even aware they're doing it. So, and that's just one example of many. I'd say I'm probably looking for about 60 different things. And again, over 20 years, there's only so many things that you can address. But I've seen them all. Like we said before, many of these inhibitions around expressing yourself have been, you've held them as necessary for decades. It's unrealistic to expect you're going to get rid of them. However, I would say the best analogy is like going to a fitness trainer. Let's say you go to a fitness trainer for a weekend. What they're going to do, they're going to take a look at where you're at. They're going to see where you have imbalances, previous injuries, things like that. Okay, what do we need to work on? They're going to develop a plan for you. They're going to teach you how to do the plan. They're going to run you through the plan, perform the repetitions. They're going to tell you how to use the equipment. They're going to tell you about the nutrition. They're going to tell you about supplementation, tell you about the importance of rest, lay out the plan for you, run it through you for a period of days. You're going to be better than you were when you came in on Friday. You're going to be a level or two above where you were when you came in on Friday. But perhaps more importantly, you're going to have seen the top of the mountain. You're going to have a very clear path of how to get there. I think that the thing that stops a lot of people from like really digging in and making a decision, like this is going to be the year I handle this, as the marketing goes, right? I get this handled. Whether it's the fitness, your finances, this, but I just don't know what the hell to do. Like if you're like, okay, I'm going to figure out how to invest properly, like in a smart way this year. I take a program. I'm going to figure out how to handle my fitness. I'm going to go to a trainer. I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to go to some weird dude who's been doing it for 20 years. So you're going to have, again, a boost of momentum and an orientation. A boost of momentum and an orientation. And now it's kind of interesting because on the first night, I don't give you a lot of material. And a lot of guys, why do you think that is? Why don't I give people material? Just say it louder. I don't think it stifles, but it's useless without proper vibe. You know what I mean? Remember how a moment ago I was demonstrating how you can say even so-called simp shit and have it be like hilarious and effective, provided the vocal tonality is correct, the accompanying facial emotional messages are correct, the body language, gesture, proximity. If all that's dialed, anything will work. If it's not dialed, nothing will work. So first night, I just kind of want to throw you to the wolves. Throw you in the pool, see what you got. Because you're probably doing some things that are pretty good. You're probably doing some other things that aren't so good, that really need a little bit of attention. It's like, let's face it, look. It's like fitness. If you want to get good, you're going to have to take massive, massive fucking action. You need to, number one, like I said, understand the fundamentals. And I'm a huge fundamentals person at this point. The bells and whistles, great. You can dig into that later. But you want to master fundamentals. What's the fundamentals of fitness? Eat less food, move around more. But move around more, you got to move around a lot. How did I lose a bunch of fat in the last 3 months? I went to the gym twice a day for 2 months. I'm still doing that. Does it suck? Yeah, it kind of sucks. But you know what's funny? This is my buddy, because I have a problem. My sticking point personally is I have a tendency to make things harder than they are, mentally. Anyone here have that? That's been a huge issue for me in my life. Like, I'm always kind of trying to dig in what's the problem. It's like, oh, that's going to be so hard. I'm going to have to get up. I'm going to have to go and set up for filming or whatever the case may be. Same thing with fitness, because I was like, dude, this dieting, it's like half-assed. It's kind of not working. I was kind of half-assing it, you know? It's like, okay, monitoring, eating, like restricting calories, go to the gym a little bit more than before, and then I'd have a cheat day and it'd all come back. So I was like, you know what, fuck this, enough. It's clearly not working. More severe measures need to be taken. And it kind of, like the first couple weeks, it kind of sucked. I mean, it's fucking hard. So I'm doing I'm running 10 miles a day, in 2 5-mile segments, morning and night. And working out in the morning, another 5 miles a night, 7 days a week. Yeah, I've been doing this for 2 months. After the third week, it stopped being upsetting. Now it's not fun. It just is what it is. It's like, oh yeah, time to go. It just is what it is. And lo and behold, it's working. I'm like, oh shit, it's actually working. Huh, who knew? My moobs went away. I'm a 46-year-old man. I'm in the best shape of my fucking life. Why? Gym 2 times a day, every fucking day, 7 days a week. Right? Why? I said, shut the fuck up. Punch through the fucking wall. Punch through the wall. I got this from my buddy Owen. He's like, sometimes punching through the wall is less painful, ultimately, than just sitting there and derping. You know what I mean? Honestly, that's what I've come to believe. That's kind of my life philosophy at this point. Punch it, whatever it is, punching through the damn wall with extreme measures, it is painful, but ultimately the result is going to be far better than, I believe that the cumulative psychological damage that comes from not taking action is far more damaging to you than any potential downside of taking the action. Or in the case of this, rejection. You might go up, oh, the rejection, but what happens when you don't when you don't do the approach? You're reinforcing a self-image of yourself as this punk ass, this loser who doesn't take action. I saw the person, I wanted to talk to him, I didn't do it. Oh, I didn't do it. I'm a punk, I'm a loser, I'm a pussy, whatever derisive term you want to use for yourself. But if I do an approach and they don't like me, I don't even remember that. I literally can't even remember what it looks like. I know that sounds like hyperbole to you. I can't even recall. By the way, Spiros, so he's been on program. You're an interesting guy. When he came on program, I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit. He was very gamey, right? So he was like, hey, literally, I remember I went into, he was talking to someone, these girls, and I went up, and I said something. It wasn't even that weird. I was like, da-da-da-da, and they're like, is this a TV show? Where's the cam? I don't know what I just walked into here. I don't know what the hell this guy's been saying to you, but it's because it was a little too much. I'm like, yo, drop all this shit. Let's tone it down. Some people, that's what they need. They're doing too much. But the interesting thing about it is, when I see you out now, you're just kicking ass. Every time I see, because he lives in San Francisco, so I see him out all the time. He's always kicking ass now. But why? Because he went out. How often were you going out?
Okay, so it goes back to making the time, as you were saying.
Yeah. Here, do you want the mic? Let me run this over to you.
Yeah. Sure.
Making the time.
Yeah. So before going on Jeff's program and before doing the mentoring, I was so busy. I was like, there's no way
Right.
I have time to go out. Then I do the bootcamp and the mentoring, and suddenly I have time to go through the mentoring content, do the exercises every week, attend like 4 hours of Zoom calls or something insane like that, write field reports, and go out 3 to 4 times a week for hours at a time.
Yeah.
Where did that time come from?
Yeah, no, it's kind of funny because you'll make time for whatever's important to you, right? I mean, we all have the same, like, what is it, 168 hours in a week? If it's important to you, you're going to make time for it. If it's important to you to watch fucking Netflix, you're going to do that. If it's important to you to be with loved ones, you're going to do that. If it's important to you to go to church, you're going to do that. If it's important to you to learn to study, you're going to do that. If it's important for you to master for me, in my case, get rid of the excessive adipose tissue that has accumulated around my midsection, I'm going to do that. And then at a certain point, it just stops being a thing and it just is what it is. And then you get the result and you're like, well, why the hell didn't I just do that earlier? So this is the point of this. This is why we decided to offer the bundle. If you immerse yourself in this over the course of a year, and you could take all 5 of those in a row, or you could spread them out over the course of a year, you will never have to think about this ever again. It will not be a consideration for you ever again. You could even get married. Be married for 15 years, break up, and go right back to it. It'll always be a home for you. Because these are skills that you do not forget, you do not lose these. Like if you stop working out, you'll lose that. If you stop, you're not gonna lose understandings of your communication system and how to communicate with others. It's an understanding. Right? So, and of course, there's also the argument that, the entropy is far worse than taking action. Like you're not just gonna stay in the same place if you don't take the action. You're gonna get worse.